and welcome to Editor's Corner, coming to you from the Brickworks broadcast studio. I'm Eliza O'Hare. I'm the editor of Inside Out magazine, which is a magazine that hits renovation from two perspectives, inspiration and practical application. Today I'm here with Tina Englund, and for the past 15 years she's been co-principal at COAP here in Sydney. Thank you so much, Tina, for coming today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Tina Englund has been co-principal at the Sydney-based practice COAP for 15 years, but has been at the core of the Australian architecture and design industry for her entire life as part of the Englund family design dynasty. Tina's personal influence on Sydney style runs deep, and while her desire to make homes that make happy humans is paramount, it's the influence of a well-travelled life, a love of books, and a design-immersed childhood that make the homes Tina Englund creates so warm and wonderful.
One of the things we wanted to talk about is the difference between creating a home and creating a building. And I'd love to jump in and get you to share what you think the difference is. What does differentiate a home and a building?
Well, a home is a place where happy humans live. They make the home. But children grow up in homes and their experience of the world is often, their first experience is within the home. Mm. So homes that are insulated, that breathe, that are cool in the summer and warm in the winter, give them a foundation that they can take forward for the rest of their lives. But really, it's the substance behind the style that matters. So it's, are the materials appropriate for their use? Do they insulate? Are they integral? Do they last? So if they are all of those things, that's actually a sustainable way for homes to be in the future.
So important to introduce that sustainability element wherever we can.
Yeah.
So light and space really do inform that emotional response within a home. How do you work with those two elements to make it feel even more personal and family oriented?
So space is obviously the proportions of the rooms, the way the areas between them help them to flow and connect. It can be delightful and three-dimensional. Space can have penetrations to bring in natural light, to bring in fresh air, to frame a view. Light, on the other hand, is harnessing the sun. And so having shade devices that keep us cool in the summer, having windows that give us natural light or natural heating in the winter. Again, these are the basics of sustainable living. And this should be a right of every human, to have a home that doesn't have those hot bedrooms upstairs, that can be air conditioned maybe just a few days of the year or heated a few days of the year, but is able to actually work with the rhythms of nature as we know them in our climate, brings costs down, makes living more affordable for families, and uses less power. So therefore, again, we come back to is more sustainable. It's actually common sense.
Yes.
And it needs to be applied.
Yeah. You're obviously a woman working in your field. So how do you think that feminine perspective has shaped what you like to create?
My perspective has been shaped not so much by being a female as by the experiences that I've had. So travel, growing up in an architecture designed house in the 1970s, visiting incredible buildings, having mentors in my early work practices who taught me. Books are another thing that give me perspective.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot of perspectives, and as a female I feel like I need to have a male perspective as well as a female perspective.
Yeah.
Becoming a mum has actually helped give me another perspective, and clients often give you eye-opening perspectives that you didn't have.
Yeah.
Because you have to actually create bespoke homes for the way that family lives, based on your own experiences, shared experiences, but equally they may have new ways of living. I think I've always stood for wellness, and I think all of the principles that I talk about, aspect orientation, shade device, natural light penetration, heat penetration, this all provides wellness. So if we can keep the costs down on living, not have to maintain houses because we haven't got time, we want to play with the kids instead. All of those things actually contribute to wellness. It still comes back down to these words, common sense.
Yes. So over the period of time when you have been creating houses for other people and homes for yourself, has that sort of shifted, or have you remained quite steadfast in that?
It was very steadfast for a decade of my life, so I would call it chapter, where we literally had taken, we called it a box of parts, like Lego, and we reworked it for each new project. With COAP, our process is much more based on the individual client's early brief and their requirements. the site. We've got one project at the moment where we're responding to the tree trunk of an Angophora tree.
Fantastic.
On the site, and using all of its colour palette to inform the palette for the house.
What a dream project.
It's fun. Yeah, it's good fun.
So in your home, you've created your home. Can you tell me a little bit about what you did for yourself?
So my home is an apartment. It's quite compact and 3 bedrooms. It's in a development that Engel & Moore designed 20-something years ago.
Fantastic.
So we've lived there since my son was 3, and as I said, he's just moved out at 23. And it's been an intimate home, and it's been one made with many, many memories. And although I would like to move around because I do get bored, and stamp duty does keep me there, I have loved watching it gain its patina. I think all of our material selections, which were quite solid and what I call Tonka tough, very much based on Harry Seidler's early apartment buildings, which I had lived in one and had seen how well it lasted through multiple families. I still find the lines really appealing to my eye. I still find pleasure in seeing the light and shade and shadows across the walls. So
it must be very satisfying.
It's a little bit zen.
So you've been there for 20 years and obviously things have changed in that time. What would you look back on and change now, if anything?
I would just slow down the clock.
Yeah.
I would just have it 3 times over, over and over and over. I'd have it all again.
So great.
Yeah.
Are you going to move?
No, we've already downsized, so we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So we did try to move along the way, along the 20 years, and it wasn't. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I think my husband and son are both very glad it didn't. I think it was more my dream than theirs. So you just go with life.
Yes. Part of this seeking of home that we cover is really dealing with emotional spaces, and it's different for everyone. For me, there was I was in Istanbul looking at some old frescoes in a really old church, and I had this big emotional response. And I have something similar when I drive over the Cahill Expressway. Is there a building that elicits that sort of response in you?
Yes, well, there are many, but the 3 that I would mention are all in Sydney.
Oh, fantastic.
They all informed my childhood. So a lot of learning is done during childhood. We're just little prunes, and that's why it would be great to teach principles of architecture to children.
Yes.
Get them while they're young, I say. But the first building is Colin Madigan's library in Dee Why. You can still go and visit it today. And the second is Ken Woolley's Pettit and Sevitt homes. They were display homes that kids of my generation were all dragged through. And the third one is the Sydney Opera House.
Right.
All 3 of them are full of ramps, incredibly proportioned steps, mezzanines, skylights, light and shade. They were buildings to explore, and they were buildings that we had fun in.
Yeah.
And that, I think, grew a very early passion for 3-dimensional space.
Yeah. So do you think you can create an emotional space by replicating elements of those buildings? Do you pick them up and put them down in?
We use elements like skylights and things like that, obviously. I think those buildings were undertaken by true masters.
Yeah.
And they were undertaken in a period that was very progressive and modern. And I would be delighted to think I could leave something even close to that on this planet. But yeah, we keep trying. Take all that I've learnt from what I've seen and incorporate those into our buildings. And we have to keep evolving them as well, because we don't want to just keep stamping out the same product.
Yeah.
And that's where the clients are very interesting, because each time their needs might be different from our wants.
Yeah.
And by marrying those together, we often come up with something different. And there's an evolution there that allows you to keep learning, and that learning is great.
Fantastic.
Enjoyable.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to see more Editor's Corner, you can go to brickworks.com.au. Thanks, Tina.
Thank you.